Today we're going to cover two chapters, Chapter 12 and Chapter 13. Chapter 12 has to do with identifying key problems or challenges, and Chapter 13 has to do with making goals or creating goals, I guess. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. I have no idea why I selected this PowerPoint slide, but that's the one I've got. Understanding the client's problems, this can be complicated. The process of coming to an agreement on problems and goals involves a thoughtful and complete assessment. It is important to work on what the client is ready to solve, not what the practitioner might think is important. The problem, what is the extent of your problem? This is a question that you might ask them. How is the problem affecting your life? How long has this problem been in existence? How frequently does this problem happen, and how bad does it get? What is the cause of your problem? Are you living in an environment that will allow the problem to return? Is the problem worse because you haven't dealt with it or because you shaved your head? Is this a superficial problem or one that goes deeper, requiring extensive therapy? How urgent is it that the problem be solved? Is it possible that this problem is the symptom of a more serious problem? Considerations of any problem include financial remuneration, client time constraints, and practitioner time constraints. You can only do what you can do, and of course you're not working for free, and that's part of the problem. Dealing with crisis, the practitioner might have to act without fully exploring all problems due to crisis status. The immediate crisis situation will have to be dealt with first before you can address other problems. The practitioner may have to be more directive. In other words, you might have to tell them what to do. You might have to give them advice. Normally you don't want to do this, but in a crisis situation, sometimes you have to be more directive. Crisis situations dealing with interpersonal violence would include murder. This is not somebody that's actually been murdered. You can tell because she's pretty. Usually, when people die, they turn gray. All the blood leaks out of their skin, so they look gray or pale. They look pale if you're not white, I guess. Anyway, this person's not really dead. Crisis situations dealing with interpersonal violence would include rape. Crisis situations dealing with interpersonal violence would include terrorist bombings. Crisis situations dealing with major natural disasters would include floods. And this is becoming more and more common around the world. Floods, I mean. Crisis situations dealing with major natural disasters would include tornadoes. And this is quite prevalent in certain parts of the United States, places that I've lived, Oklahoma, here in Iowa, Nebraska, northern Texas. All those places tornadoes are quite frequent. Crisis situations dealing with major natural disasters would include house fires. Crisis situations dealing with major natural disasters would include hurricanes, certainly not in Oklahoma, of course, and certainly not in Iowa. But if you live anywhere close to the coast, New Orleans was just hit by a major storm that went up the Mississippi, and then it turned east, and it went right through Tennessee and into North Carolina. And of course, Tennessee got feet of rain in a very short period of time, and it flooded much of Tennessee. Crisis situations dealing with personal loss would include an unexpected death of a family member. This is very common with the COVID pandemic taking place, of course. Crisis situations dealing with personal loss would include sudden abandonment of a significant other. It is important to stay calm and remember that safety is the first priority. Use skills of listening, asking questions for clarification, express warmth and empathy. Seek supervision as soon as possible. Clients do not see any need to make a change. This is the pre-contemplation stage. They do not see their behaviors or feelings as a problem. They blame others for the problem. This is very, very common. It's somebody else's fault, so I don't have to deal with it. Moving from something clients cannot change to something they can improves efficacy. Empathy about problems that are out of the client's control is necessary. If the client states that her boss is unfair to her, the practitioner might see her part of the problem as her inability to figure out what she can do to be treated more fairly. The practitioner isn't denying that the client has a problem, merely pointing out the portion of the problem that the client can't control. If the client states that the problem is the city's failure to adequately maintain their neighborhood, the practitioner might help the client to see their part of the problem as their lack of information about how to effectively lobby for services. If a mother is upset because her son is doing poorly in school and wants to make him bring up his grades, the practitioner will accept this as a valid concern and work with the mother to figure out what she wants to change about herself. The mother may be focusing too much on what the child is not doing or may not have to encourage or may not have encouraged him. She may not have discussed the problem with his teachers. If the client is a young single mother of 3 children who states that she doesn't have enough money for food and housing, even though she works full time, the practitioner can work with her on her desire for more income so that she can better provide for her family and can tell her about whatever additional resources might be available to help her provide for her family. Pre-contemplation stage motivational interviewing can be very helpful. Motivational interviewing is client-centered counseling that helps clients increase motivation by assisting them in exploring and resolving ambivalence about making changes. And the word ambivalence means not having an opinion one way or the other. That's ambivalence. Rolling with resistance, clients have valid insights and ideas about their situations. Arguments can for change are avoided by clients. The practitioner indicates a willingness to work on the problem identified by the client. Resistance often arises when the client is required to see the practitioner. A motivational interviewing strategy that involves pointing out an incongruity between the client's present behavior and something they value or want. This may increase clients' motivation to change. The goal is to move the client to contemplating that there is a problem that they can work on. And of course, if they see no solution, a lot of times they don't want to think about it. So they want to skip around the problem. And it is the practitioner's task to get them to think about to get them to contemplate about what their problem might potentially be. Okay. There's a readiness to believe there is a problem. This is a contemplation stage. The client can acknowledge the advantages of changing, but is also aware of the costs. You need to express empathy toward your client. Important at all stages of change is empathy. You need to show that you understand that that they feel like there is a problem, and of course there is a problem. This provides acceptance, of course, the more empathy that you show. Contemplation stage, I know that you know that your drinking is a problem, but right now stopping seems impossible. That's something you might say. I understand that you think it would improve your health if you gave up smoking, but that giving up smoking feels almost impossible. Advanced reflecting, client's perspective is essential. Identifying values, meanings, feelings, and expectations. Expressions need to be stated tentatively. The purpose is to invite the client to have insight, self-awareness, and/or a deeper understanding of his or her situation. It seems like you feel angry because you value communication and he doesn't. You have moved from focusing on the client's husband to identifying what the client values. It sounds like you feel angry because you expect clear directions from your boss. Without clear directions, you feel afraid of making mistakes. You've moved from focusing on the boss to focusing on the client's need for clarification. It seems like you value open communication and haven't found a way to invite other members of this group to share openly, moving from focusing on what the client thinks is wrong with the other group members to focusing on what the client values. I hear that you are frustrated and think this group isn't accomplishing enough. It seems like you really want this task group to do well, moving from focusing on what the client is frustrated about and what the client wants. It seems that several folks in this agency are feeling impatient because the needs of the growing Hispanic population are not being adequately addressed by the agency. It sounds like addressing the needs of the Hispanic population is something many of you value and think is important, moving from focusing on what is wrong with the services at the agency to what the people in the agency value. I'm wondering if you feel like you aren't getting much recognition at work. Being valued for your contribution seems to be important to your job satisfaction, moving from what the people at work aren't giving the client to what the client wants. I have the feeling that the group really wants to deal with this issue, but you're afraid of hurting one another's feelings, moving from what the group members are afraid of to what they want. It seems like you folks in the neighborhood really want to get this problem solved, but are feeling pretty discouraged right now because the process seems difficult, moving from how hard the process is to what the people want. Themes may be related to interacting, behaving, thinking, and/or feeling. Seeing patterns can help clients to make changes. A theme is an idea or point of view shared by several people. A pattern refers to consistent ways of thinking, feeling, or behaving. Okay. Identifying patterns and themes. A pattern might be related to how a client tries to escape, run away, or use some self-defeating behavior. The practitioner can ask about possible connections between problems and thoughts, feelings, ways of coping, and other situations. It is particularly powerful to relate themes and patterns to clients' experience of what is happening in his or her relationship with the practitioner. Clients can begin to identify their roles and problems and begin to set goals. It is important to state and restate goals until both client and practitioner are clear about them. Partializing involves breaking a complex problem into manageable parts, and this is known as partializing. A practitioner and client can decide which part of a problem should be dealt with first. This may be the easiest, the most painful, or one that can lead to the solvability of other aspects of the larger problem. It is important to remember that the client's perception of what is manageable may be smaller than or different than the practitioner might see as possible. Supporting self-efficacy, encouragement given to clients that they can solve problems. The goal is to enhance clients' confidence and capability to cope. Statements that recognize what the clients have already accomplished and identifies their strengths can support their belief in themselves. Problem identification concerns aiding the clients identifying problems clearly. In larger systems and families, different members may understand problems differently. Clients often think of problems as something to stop. They need to change to what they want to start doing instead of what they want to stop. Ethical considerations in problem identification. Practitioners need to support essential ethical principles related to autonomy and self-determination. Client decisions are influenced by culture, gender, age, and other factors. Practitioner's role is to support choices of clients, even if they feel they should make other choices. That's the end of chapter 12. Let me get rid of it. There we go. Chapter 13. Establishing goals. Identifying general goals. Goals set the direction of work to be done. Clear goals are necessary to planning steps to be taken. They are what clients hope to achieve working with the practitioner. They are the client's vision of what life would be like if their problems were solved. Goals must be mutually established between practitioners and clients. Practitioners should not try to guide clients. The client has to guide themselves, otherwise it won't work. Satisfactory work depends on practitioners' ability to collaborate with the client. Questions that seek clarification help clients figure out what goals they are motivated to achieve. Exception-finding questions are useful. Explore times when the problem was not present, times when the problem was smaller or less problematic. Open-ended questions at the end of our work together. What do you want your life to be like? When the problems that brought you here are solved, what do you want to be thinking, doing, or feeling? When we have finished our work together, what might other people see you doing that you aren't doing now? Tell me about the picture of what you want your family to be like. Popcorn eating, that's what I want my family to be like. Big tubs of popcorn. That's what, half a bushel it looks like. I discovered the other day, I always thought that a peck was a half a bushel. It turns out a peck is a quarter of a bushel, so it's about an 8-gallon bucket. That looks like an 8-gallon bucket. That's a peck of popcorn. Let's pretend that these problems are solved. What differences will you notice in your life? Make it possible for clients and practitioners to evaluate changes that have been made. It provides a clear direction and focus for work. These are the measurable and specific goals. Will you give me an example of what positive communication sounds like to you? When you have positive communication, what will you be doing that you weren't doing now? In what situations do you want to have more positive communication? I want to get better grades, so I will write down each assignment I get this week. I want to lose weight, so I will go to the gym 3 times this week. I want to become sober, so I will attend 1 AA meeting this week. I want more friends, so I will sit next to 2 different people in each of my classes. A goal needs to be something that the client believes is possible. Attainable goals. A goal needs to be something that the client believes is possible based on available resources such as time, money, and people power. Establishing a series of small goals helps clients experience success. It is important that the size of the goal seems attainable to a client and reasonable to the practitioner. Unattainable goals involve changing another person. Time to reach the goal must be relatively proximate to the decision to change. Clients who participate in setting goals are more likely to believe goals are achievable. Goals should be visualized in concrete, specific behavioral terms. Your goal is to lose 15 pounds. Would it be reasonable to lose 1.5 pounds this week? Your goal is to turn your homework in on time. Would it be reasonable to set aside an hour an evening to do homework for this class? Your goal is to attend AA meetings. Would it be reasonable to acquire a list of local meetings this week? I hear that you want to weigh what you weighed when you were 30 years old. Let's consider first setting a goal that you can successfully reach in a shorter period of time. What do you think about what would be a reasonable and not too hard goal to reach in 2 months? I agree that giving up drinking and going to AA meetings every day is a terrific goal. AA is very good at celebrating each milestone in the process to lifetime sobriety. How about if one of our first goals is going to AA every day for 2 weeks? Does that sound okay to you? It sounds like your group was disappointed in your grade on the big project, and you were determined to start earlier on the next big project. That sounds like a plan that will work. The next project is due 6 weeks from now. What goal would you like to achieve 3 weeks from now related to that project? So the two of you often argue about how to discipline the children and think it would be better if you agreed on discipline methods. That sounds like a good goal to achieve. Since you disagree on many aspects of discipline, would it make sense to you to start with the goal of coming to an agreement about what to do when Anne won't spend time on her homework? In this town, you have many people who are homeless, and you want to develop a solution to the problem that will be acceptable to the city council and also the people who are homeless. I wonder if the first goal might be to create a group of people, including some people who are homeless and some of you who are willing to work on this problem. Positive goals keeps the focus on what the client wants to do rather than what the client doesn't want to do. Practitioners can use open-ended questions to help clients to think in positive terms. I want to lose weight, so today I will eat at least 2 servings of fruit. I want to turn my homework in on time, so today I will review all the work I need to turn in this week. I want to make 2 new friends, so today I will say hi to 5 people. If one night at dinner you weren't fighting, what do you think you might be doing? If one day you felt the urge to drink but didn't drink, what would you do instead? What is your vision of what the neighborhood would be like without drug dealers? When you are concerned about how things are going in the group, how would you like to talk to each other about your concerns or hopes? If this agency was functioning in a way that you believe would be effective, what would people be doing that they aren't doing now? Short-term goal, this week I will go to class and write down my homework assignments. Long-term goal, this semester I will raise my grades 1 level. Short-term goal, this week I will speak with 3 new people. Long-term goal, this semester I will make 2 new friends. Moving from general to specific goals, practitioners may decide to approach agreement on problems and goals differently. Some practitioners prefer more general goals. Working on one goal often relates to other goals. Many practitioners find it helpful to establish a written verbal agreement that describes previous understandings between them and the client. These agreements are developed collaboratively and can be modified as necessary. A good alliance involves a safe, trusting, comfortable, collaborative relationship. It includes an agreement between the practitioner and the client about the goals. These set the stage for monitoring work together. There are many valid and reliable scales for measuring the alliance. There are also scales for measuring the outcome of a session or series of sessions with clients. The goal attainment scale is a 5-point scale that ranges from most to least favorable outcomes that the client believes are possible. It can be used to identify level of progress achieved either during the course of work together or at the end. Using the GAS, the goal attainment scale, for each MAPS goal can be helpful. This week, I will eat 2 servings of fruit each day. Next week, I will make an appointment to join a gym. The following week, I will attend the gym and 3 exercise classes. The next week, I will continue at the gym and eating fruit, and weigh myself to see if I have lost any weight. If not, I will join Weight Watchers, etc. And that is the end of chapter 13. So, one of the things I need, you've got to get your stuff in, your history in, you've got to create your character before the 10th week. This is the 8th week, so you've got 2 more weeks to get those things in. You got to have them in, otherwise you can't start counseling, and that's the whole point of the class is counseling. So if you have problems, give me a call. I have office hours every day. Wait a minute, Monday through Thursday. If you need help, communicate with me. Right now I have 2. I think I have 2 people. I have one person has actually 2 characters, so that's a little interesting. But I'm not sure how that's going to work. But yeah, you need to get your history in, if you would please. Um, and I can make suggestions if you like, um, to to help you. But you got to get those histories in. Okay. Okay. I'll talk to you next week.